remember the name. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Tangled Rights. I hope that doesn't get cut. I'm Justin W. Wilson, and this is
Shane D. Cox, Esquire, attorney at law in the state of Nevada. This is not legal
I feel like
advice.
we need to put the cricket thing on me there, just like... no, not legal advice. Consult your local attorney if you have any questions. If you have questions in the state of Nevada or the state of Kansas, you can call me.
Welcome to episode 21.
Whoa, Joe Rogan, watch out. We're right behind you.
Tangled Rights can purchase alcohol and cigarettes now that they're age 21.
Episodes is a year. Got it.
It's a joke, dude.
Because we're both old, and so is Austin.
So
Austin's totally draftable. We just talked about that.
Even with a birthday in 2 days.
Yeah, they don't care. They'll draft you anyway.
First things first, me and Justin have a big bet going for Friday.
Uh-oh.
We're not going to reveal what the bet is, but our law school alma maters are...
the result.
The result, yeah.
Okay, so the bet is...
We'll tell them what it is. Our alma maters are playing in football this Friday. Syracuse versus UNLV.
Yes.
UNLV football, ever since I grew up here, this is the first time that they've been any semblance of good. First time they're ranked in the AP poll ever. Ever. And they gave a butt whooping to Fresno State, and they beat your boys, the Kansas Jayhawks, earlier this season.
Trash.
Just barely, but this will be in Las Vegas. So we are excited to see who wins and the results of our bet. You'll see.
And you'll be able to tell who lost.
That's
all we're going to say.
You'll see in the next episode. But we're excited about that. So pay attention to Friday Night Football, which will already have happened by the time this episode comes out. But
so go in the past and watch the game.
and look who won between UNLV and Syracuse. UNLV's favored right now. So
that doesn't mean anything. They just lost their quarterback.
And then they gave butt whooping to Fresno State.
Yeah, but they gave him broken promises. Also, it's Fresno State. All right, that's a little different than Syracuse.
Syracuse,
Orangemen. Yeah, in the Dome.
You were just in Syracuse, so you're feeling...
I was at the Dome, man. Me and Brendan Hall, shout out. He's a litigator in New York City. We walked around campus a little bit just to kind of reminisce. Went to the law school, looked at it, walked around the Dome, looked at that, walked through campus and thought that everybody looked like a child because turns out...
Because we're old now.
Dude.
We are old.
I don't feel old, right? Because like in the gym, I can still, smash 20-year-olds. But walking around, it's like...
Phrasing?
Oh, not like that. Like,
I'm one of them.
Put them in a Kimura, strangle them, whatever. Consensually, of course. But like seeing them on campus, it's just like, geez, these kids
They're young.
They're children. Like if I saw one of those dudes in the gym, I don't think I'd like, oh, what do you do for work? Or like try to start up a conversation with him. I'd be like, all right, I want to talk to this kid. Where's his dad at? I'll make friends with him. Right? That's how, which is the weird thing. I guess this is life. Here we are.
It stinks to get old and to focus on
But I'm not old.
Different things. Yeah, okay. Sure. So today we wanted to talk about post-conviction motions.
Uh-oh.
Does that sound boring? Post-conviction motions?
It is.
It's pretty simple. The words probably make sense. After someone's convicted,
Yes.
there are motions that you can file in criminal cases.
Correct.
So we talked a lot last week about Carly Gregg, the twisted teen murderer, because that is what she's been dubbed. Basically, after every criminal conviction I've ever seen, there's a motion for a new trial. Mm-hmm. And so Carly Gregg, they're talking about filing, or maybe at the time of releasing, there's a motion for a new trial. Justin, why is there always these motions for new trial? Why can't they just give up?
Well, you can always get a second bite at the apple, and sometimes there are grounds for it. When I was in the appellate division at the DA's office, I'd see stuff sometimes that was pro se, meaning the defendant wrote it, and so it was a little more groundless most of the time. But a lot of times, every trial, with as dynamic as they are and difficult to conduct on both sides, the prosecution will screw something up. Some piece of evidence will get in, something minor most of the time, nothing major. But I mean, if you were going to go to prison, and your only hope to not go to prison is to file this motion, what are you going to do?
Oh, okay.
Because I know what I'm doing.
It's pretty big stakes then, huh?
Yeah, pretty high stakes.
Okay, that makes sense. So in Carly Gregg's case, the defense team came out and said Carly Gregg's biological father, because we talked about her shooting her stepfather at the time, but her biological father had given some interviews and he had said, yeah, she does have these psychological issues. That's my understanding of it. And so they're using that as a basis to move for a new trial to get
Newly
him
discovered evidence or something?
I guess it's newly discovered evidence. But
I don't know the standard there, but it seems a bit weird to me.
he should have been available and known to them before.
Yeah, she knew about him, I would guess.
It goes back to her being 14 or 15, though.
But also, you could argue with the mental illness, if there is one, that's a reason that she didn't, contribute to her own defense in a meaningful way.
Yeah. No,
But the attorney should know better.
These aren't granted very often. On occasion, they are, definitely. There's new evidence that's found, and it's to the benefit of the criminal defendant at all times. These could happen, even years down the road with newly discovered evidence. We talked about Joe Exotic's case, too, about some...
Well, not just that. The dude that just got executed, man.
Yep, we talked about him, and he was
sorry.
killed.
He was murdered.
He was murdered
by
by
the
his
state of
government
Missouri.
Before our episode released talking about him. He was already gone.
Dude,
So,
I am so just by that whole thing.
there's a lot more evidence than what we've seen.
I know.
But-
It's just looking at it from the outside. I don't know.
We see the weird things when somebody's about to be convicted. You see the opposite view of, oh, this is stuff that makes them look innocent. If somebody walks away from a murder charge, then everything that comes out is all this evidence that shows that they actually did it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's always the media response is whatever is yeah.
Oh,
The glove did
it
not
doesn't
fit.
work.
You must acquit.
also that cop said racist things. I didn't do it.
Yeah. So
But if I did, I'd write a book about it.
he's gone now. Hey, another famous Vegas sports star just died, and Pete Rose. He was living here. He just passed away yesterday. Yeah.
How old was he?
84, 82, around there.
Older guy.
He was in his 80s, which is crazy too. That
Yeah.
I had seen him around town a few times. Pete Rose kind of famously lived here in Las Vegas.
Never
but
seen him.
83.
83.
I
Dang.
the
Shout out.
average of the two numbers I said. I was circling it.
So the motion for a new trial is one of the motions, but there's another one that I wanted to talk about briefly that I've seen filed a few times that is almost never granted. It's a motion to withdraw a plea. Because as we've talked about earlier, you can kind of get into a conviction or guilt.
Yes.
One of two ways. You can either get judged guilty by a jury of your peers
Or agreeing.
or agree to it. But after the fact, sometimes folks have buyer's remorse, and there's a few set of circumstances to withdraw a guilty plea.
Well, there's a lot of emotions and thoughts going on when
Sure.
you're facing down the barrel of a gun of a prosecution.
Sure.
So,
And I actually just got one withdrawn recently.
oh yeah,
It was a case that I want to say Almasi was on it, and it's kind of the opposite of what happened with me in the case where that kid shot that guy in the ankle.
yeah, and he
You know,
wanted to withdraw.
he wanted to
his
withdraw
plea.
after
Yeah.
the fact. So she wanted to withdraw. I get the plea withdrawn, and then I got the case dismissed because it turns out she didn't do what she said they did. It was possession of credit card without cardholder's consent, but one was her boyfriend, the other one was her cousin.
Oh,
And she just wanted out of jail
yeah.
because she was like detoxing or something. I can't remember exactly what was going on. It was something medical, right?
Yeah.
And so she does the guilty plea with the understanding that at entry of plea she gets OR'd because it's a no opt probation, and then afterwards she wants to withdraw her plea.
That is an incentive that we get from prosecutors sometimes to have people
Man.
agree to something. But hey, you get out of jail sooner. If you fight this, you're going to have to be in jail while you fight this.
Yeah.
So
Which
why don't you just take this little felony to get out of jail now?
And I understand it, but man, I try to put myself in their position when I really didn't do something. The times in my life that I really did not do something I was accused of
Versus the times where you did.
versus the times I did. Yeah, absolutely. We've all done stuff. And I'm just thinking like you'd have to torture me pretty severely to get me to agree that I didn't do something that, even if I'm in jail. Plus, jail would actually be kind of like chill, right?
It's easy. It's easier for people to say when they're out of jail that, oh, that's what I would do if I was, facing down. But
Been to jail. Know what it's like.
well, I just think when people are actually in that situation, it's a lot different, and they think that their situation is unique. And
Yeah, for sure.
So
I mean, I also don't know what that person's going through. They're different than I am. And I mean, the times I was in jail, I didn't like it, but
and you have an attorney that explains to you the consequences. Hey, if you're convicted of this, the consequence is
Sure.
this amount of time. If you
Yeah.
take a deal now, it's here. You know,
Right.
you're kind of hedging your bets.
right. Well, that's the negotiation, right? It works the same way in civil law. If we're agreeing to something, both sides are giving something up. Each party is going to come out happy and unhappy, right? Here, the state gets their conviction, they're happy, or they've done justice, rather. Sorry to my friends in the DA's office. Be better. And the person gets some benefit, right? They get probation, they get the guarantee of getting out of jail at entry of plea, whatever. And, sometimes maybe they get some treatment. If they have a problem, whether that be like mental health or addiction, then they're able to kind of fast track and get some services ordered by the court to assist them with whatever their issue is.
Okay. So we talked about the two routes. You get conviction either way. You can agree to it. You can take
Yes.
a guilty plea agreement.
But
Or
I don't advise doing that if you know you're just going to want to withdraw it.
You can find, obviously. But did it work out in her favor? Did she get OR'd and then she got it dismissed?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
lucky though. But you're
That's rare.
it's difficult to get your plea. It's not like, oh, I take it back. You signed something and you stood in front of the judge and agreed.
Right. And then in that other case I was talking about where it switched with me and Almasi, that kid flat out lied to the judge that I didn't tell him these things and I didn't do this, that, and the other.
Self-preservation.
Right. And that's fine. I told him I wasn't mad about it. I was like, I went and talked to him in the holding area and I was like, dude, you lied to the judge about that, right? And he's like, he said what he said. I can't say that here. And then the hearing happened and I just sat and watched. But what, she hinged her decision on was that the defendant was canvassed by the court.
Yeah.
Explaining the range of punishment. Because what his argument was that I didn't tell him what the range actually was. Like he just agreed to the number of years, but didn't really know.
It says that in the GPA, in the guilty plea agreement.
In the GPA, yeah. And we went over it.
You mentioned the word canvassing. Just let's describe canvassing.
All right. So canvassing is when the judge is going to make sure with the defendant that the attorney has done their job to fully explain everything. And that's just an easy way to put it.
I think the only time I hear canvass is a police coming to a scene and kind of going over the scene to make sure everything's good.
Like with everything in the English language, it's kind of a sloppy language. We use single words for many different instances, but when I'm talking about canvass inside of a courtroom, that's what I mean. Asking the defendant that he understands, whatever.
Yeah, you cannot just have your attorney agree to everything for you. You have to say that, yes, I understand what I'm doing by taking this guilty plea agreement.
Right.
And this felony that I'm agreeing to.
And it is really annoying sometimes when a judge does a good canvass, but they do that because then there's a good record, and on appeal, these motions are just going to get struck down.
Yeah.
And I don't say that to say that the judges want the motions to get struck down. The judges want to follow the rules and make sure that people know so that they're not ending up in a situation where someone agrees to something and didn't understand it,
and then it comes back to them later.
Well, not just that. Could you imagine? Like you don't really know what's going on. You think you do, and then you find out at sentencing, oh, what? I'm doing how many years? What do you mean? Right? Like,
yep.
I was told I was going to get probate or whatever,
Yeah.
So they're just doing, the smart thing.
So once a person wants to withdraw their guilty plea agreement, you mentioned that the attorneys change. Why did the attorneys change?
Because there's a conflict at that point. They might have to basically testify against their own counsel to try to say that the counsel was deficient in some way, meaning they didn't tell them everything, or an instance like we're talking about, they didn't exactly know what was going on. And so then you have to have a new attorney.
So they're breaking a specific narrow attorney-client privilege.
Right. Well, then also they destroy confidentiality at that point, if it's related to communications for that purpose.
So if you're withdrawing your plea, you need a new attorney.
Yes. But in these instances I was talking about, they get appointed. And it's easy because it's like we were conflicted counsel anyway. So instead of coming to me,
it just gets
passed to the next
attorney.
guy. Yeah, and it's either, at the time it was Almasi, but now it's Marchese and Altig.
Good guys.
Yeah.
Okay. So we that's within the realm of these post-conviction motions that we're talking about. We have Another example that's been in the news recently, in the last couple of days, we talked about Alec Baldwin's case out in New Mexico, where a gun was pointed and it was loaded and killed an innocent person. So before Alec Baldwin's case was who was the armorer, which is the person on set of handling these weapons, handling the rounds that go into the weapons. Her name was Hannah Gutierrez, and she had previously been convicted and sentenced to 18 months imprisonment. So she filed a motion for a new trial and a motion for immediate release pending that new trial. And some of the stuff was related to Alec Baldwin, but there was a lot more not related to Alec Baldwin's case because they are unique cases. We talked about that at length. These are unique cases that have different facts, different documents, different attorneys handling everything. We saw that the special prosecutor was hired to, a few different special prosecutors were hired to prosecute Alec Baldwin's case. So Hannah Gutierrez did not get a new trial, will not get a new trial. Her sentence will continue. And we kind of talked about it and said, hey, it's only 18 months. But in her eyes, she's never had a history of any crime ever. You know, she's not a history of a felon, did something incredibly reckless with something, you know, having guns and knowing their power. You have to just be so precise in your preparation.
Sure.
And she was found to be, you know, reckless, negligent, which caused the end of someone's life.
Yeah.
And she was the biggest force in that. Some people like to blame Alec Baldwin for not clearing, checking everything.
Well, the fault is not with one person; it's with both of them.
It can be, right?
No, it is.
And that's your opinion, I guess. These are
Yeah, this is my opinion
These
as
are personal opinions.
A person who
Handles firearms.
like if
You clear the chamber.
it's
or
like
whatever.
When you hand me a weapon and you tell me it's empty, what do I do? What's the first thing I do? I make sure that it's empty, right? Like,
Yep.
I don't just it's empty and pull the trigger.
These have rounds in them. You know,
Yeah,
and
no, I
I don't
understand.
know the difference between what these blank rounds look like versus the real rounds. I haven't dove into that. They're just flat, but that could look like
They don't
hollow
have the
point
little.
or like
They don't
a
have the little
snub
star
nose.
at the end. Okay, so it's just a flat, like a squib round. Okay.
Yeah, I don't, and I'm sure this is part of the trial. What these look like,
Sure.
and
But she was convicted. And
she was convicted. But this
jury
is just
found-
another.
Okay. The standard blanks don't look like that.
Was it like a 357? It must have been some kind of revolver round. Too,
It was a
because
revolver,
it
but I don't
was
remember what it was. What caliber?
in the time. I don't know.
Anyway.
Anyway, I think people are going to be reacting to this in an interesting way because we see, hey, Alec Baldwin just got off of his, trial. Shouldn't it be the same
but he
for
got
this
off
lesser
on a
person?
technicality. I mean, it's a Brady violation. He didn't get found not guilty.
No, he didn't.
He got off because the state failed to do things the right way, which they should have. That's on the prosecutor.
Failed
That's
to
not
disclose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people look at this kind of interestingly and say, well, he's got money and she doesn't. So
Well, it is a fair position to take, right? Because he's the famous guy and she's not.
yes.
And
Yes.
then she got hosed. Or sorry, she got held accountable and he didn't.
She was found guilty by a jury of her peers.
A jury of her peers held her accountable.
Yes.
I'm not saying, whatever, but a jury found her guilty.
Yes.
He
They did.
not get that right to have his, day in court.
Yes. He had some days in court
He
during
got some
trial.
days in court.
But got dismissed through some good lawyering work on his defense attorney.
Yeah, no, that's a great move. I would do the same thing. Doesn't mean that, I don't know.
People just raise eyebrows at this sometimes.
That they do.
But our next one we want to talk about a little different. So 2 examples: motions for new trial, not very likely to be granted. This one is even more rare. We have something that was called the Black Swan murderer. For those of you who paid attention to this,
Wasn't that a movie?
it was a movie.
Some
So
famous
let-
Natalie Portman. That's right.
Let me give you some details on this one. And when I get it all wrong, sorry.
Was she a ballerina? Is that why they call her Black?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Ashley Benefield
Right up here. did that.
couldn't throw the curveball past him. Ashley Benefield, who was a dancer, owned a dance studio as well. She one day, September 2020, I don't know if tensions are rising in this 2020 time, but she shot her husband and he died.
I believe nationally, instances of domestic violence, that sort of stuff, all increased during COVID.
That's my understanding as well.
Because everybody, I mean, theoretically, it's because everybody was locked in a room with each other. And like, you know, if you, let's say you have your tension and then you leave and
We could only watch so much Tiger King before.
Oh, goodness, I could watch it all day. My favorite was the campaign guy. Well, technically,
I know.
I'm a libertarian. Or no, wait. I'm a libertarian, so technically, fuck the feds. That was the best. I love that.
2020, crazy year. Can't believe we lived through that. So this is about 4 years ago. She shoots her husband.
Where?
I don't know. In their house. Where in his body? I don't know. Anyway, he dies.
Okay.
Calls the police. From the outset, she claims that he was attacking her. Self-defense. Because
I shot him 6 times in the back. He was attacking me.
because she's a dancer, and as we know, these trial watchers put names on things. Black Swan murder. So she gets tried from July 23rd through July 30th. They tried to charge her as a second defense. This is in the state of Florida, near Tampa area. So they try her as second degree murder. She claims self-defense. The trial jury turned back with a manslaughter.
ABC is saying that she was that her attorney argued that she was trapped in an abusive relationship, manipulative, controlling, and abusive, but not that like it was direct self-defense at that moment. I think they're going like with battered, or at least the way
Battered
this reads
spouse.
is battered spouse syndrome.
Well, as we know, news reports are always 100% accurate, and so
They're not allowed to lie.
They're not allowed to lie.
The rules say they have to
Good.
tell the truth.
Good. So obviously, in a trial, there's many wrinkles.
Oh, no, never mind. Hold on.
There's many wrinkles.
I'm further down.
Self-defense.
There were 2 theories. There is a self-defense.
Okay, battered spouse or self-defense.
Hit her in the side of the head, tried to keep her from leaving the room, feared for her life, shot him multiple times in self-defense, then ran to the neighbor's house.
Okay,
That's what she claimed.
that's what she claimed, and that was her defense. The jury did come back as manslaughter or man's laughter, as it's spelled, which there's nothing funny about manslaughter.
No.
The trial was July 23rd through 30th
What just
of
happened?
this year.
What just happened?
So about
Did you glitch, or were you just being serious?
about a week of trial, and they turned back a manslaughter. She's pending sentencing, but while she's pending sentencing, what kind of motion does she file, Justin?
Motion for new trial.
Yeah, so this was a unique motion because,
There actually are grounds for it.
well, what came out is this was a famous, trial, and the defense team was looking at some of the documents and looking at the jurors, and they realized after their post-trial kind of research that one of the jurors that ended up, in this jury of 6, a small jury of 6, had written something incorrect, maybe lied on the jury questionnaire beforehand.
Weird thing. Sorry, I want to see where she shot him at because it matters in a self-defense case.
Yes,
And I'm trying to find some other stuff. But what I found out, that she met her husband in 2016 at a political event, and they got married 13 days later.
Oof. That's quick.
That is fast.
Recipe for a bad start of a relationship, maybe.
Why? Why?
13 days? That's just...
I mean, you really know somebody after what? Like, what is it, 6 seconds psychologically or something?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, cool. So part of this motion is they're asking the judge to potentially look at these jurors and interview them. There's also allegations that there were cell phones inside the jury deliberation, and these people are looking up things. There's one juror who's posting things on social media about the trial, during the trial, which in and of itself might not be grounds, but a judge in a jury trial will instruct the jury time and time again, do not be talking about this case in
Correct.
public. Do not research anything on your own. The evidence is only what you hear in this jury room, because the law narrowly tailors what the evidence is that a jury hears, and should be the only evidence they hear. Obviously, it's tough when you have a trial that's kind of gaining local recognition or even national recognition like this one did a few years back. And so we have this motion that is granted, and now the judge has set a time where the judge is going to interview these members of the jury to know what happened within that jury room, what was said, who researched what.
Which is very rare.
Typically, these things are private and just not to be disturbed. And once that jury's left, it is such a rare occasion that a judge would call them back. So this is kind of just a really crazy thing. But there is some evidence that there's jury members that lied, not even, and it wasn't something that, I just, misremembered. It's something that they intentionally misrepresented in this jury questionnaire. Yeah. Yeah. That's demonstrably false based on just public social media and public things.
That's not good.
So this will be a question and could be a basis for a new trial.
Yeah.
Even though she seemingly got a good result, a manslaughter off of being charged with a second-degree murder
I think she's still looking at 11 to 30 years.
Which is a long time, yes. So
that ain't no 18-month sentence.
No, it's not an 18-month sentence.
Something that you would scoff at.
And if there's, good evidence that it is self-defense, where she was shot, all these things you'd normally look at in a case if it were yours that you're trying to get in this, little bit talking about it. But there are avenues. I guess I'm talking about this because there are avenues even post-trial. We think, hey, trial's the last thing, but there are things that can happen after that can completely change a case.
And that doesn't even get into the realm of direct appeals, which we'd need an entire episode to talk about.
Yes.
But that's something that comes later.
These are before appeals. These are just post-conviction motions that you're trying to figure out before the time you can appeal.
Right.
So,
which could be grounds for the appeal. The judge denies it. Guess what? That gets thrown in the appeal.
Yes.
And she will certainly appeal.
Yes. And we're looking, usually the best thing that a person can get that's convicted is a new trial, not just acquitted by a judge after trial. That can happen, but extremely even more rare.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard of that. I know it can, but
it can in theory, but usually these people would just sit for a new trial and have a completely new trial, and the state has to then assess
whether they want to do it, give them a better deal.
What do we want to do? So for Carly Gregg, I don't think anything's going to happen.
Depends on what those jurors say, man.
Carly Gregg was the first one with her dad. Her dad being a potential witness. They should have known. Her defense team should have known.
Yeah.
They should have talked to him more and see what he had to say. And maybe they have evidence that he just ignored them, refused to talk to them, something like that. And then he gave a public interview saying something completely different.
Only after the fact. Yeah. That's
only after the fact. So as in all cases, every fact matters. And that's why we can't give you just legal advice blanketly, because there's so many little things that matter. But if you need a post-conviction motion or need a trial representation in Nevada, come see us.
We got you.
These are big things that could affect your life. So that's post-conviction motion stuff. Sorry.
Not all of it. Obviously, there's way more to unpack in that. But that's just some stuff because those are the things that people hear. And I don't think that if you've dealt with it, you really understand it. Because, in your mind, it's like, oh, the jury came back. That's it. That's it. The state met their burden. Those 12 people found them to be credible, but that turns out that's not the case.
Usually the rules are to the benefit of the accused too, because
obviously
the government needs to be held to their standard.
To take someone's liberty, which is second only to life.
Taking somebody's liberty is a big thing, putting them behind bars. Mm-hmm. And as an outsider, people always say, oh, they did the crime, put them away. That, is better. For some reason, that's better. Putting somebody behind bars.
Until you've been there or have a loved one or whatever. Or all these times. I mean, the thing that always gets me about it is everybody's heard those stories about people who were wrongfully convicted of whatever. And then they still, I think maybe it's like the news cycle or whatever, like our attention spans are so short that people just forget about that stuff. And they hear the next one and the crime, like the facts underlying the crime are heinous, let's say.
Yeah.
Oh, he did what? Throw him under the jail. It's like, well, wait a minute. What if he didn't do it?
I think we just simplify things as person bad, go away, person good,
Stay. Yes.
And that's we react to things in 5-second increments.
But also, as I just said, it takes 6 seconds to know somebody, right?
Yeah, there you go.
But also, like, we all have infinitely busy and complicated lives. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And truly, the thing that is most important to everybody is their own existence, which is fair, right? I'm not the main character in your story. I'm the main character in my own story. So I understand where they're coming from.
I'm about me. I'm going to protect myself.
Well, me and mine, right? Like,
Yes, my group.
I care about you and your dad, right? But I care about my dad more than I care about your dad.
Yep.
Just like you do reciprocally, and there's nothing bad about that. It's okay. I would never, do anything to detriment him, but you get the point I'm making, right?
Yes.
And so that's why they make these snap judgments, and I get where they're coming from, especially when it's a safety thing. Like you get into the whole psychology of like the reptile theory, right?
Yep.
And you think, oh, there's this person walking the streets that did these things.
They are bad.
I am unsafe. They need to be put somewhere.
Put them somewhere in a prison.
And that's kind of something I wanted to gloss over a little bit on the civil context. People, like plaintiffs, think, oh, we won. Where's my money? Well, hold on a second, because the defense is obviously going to do everything they can. And so on that side of things, it does kind of suck because the burden is on the plaintiff. And so you have to protect defendants a little bit in the civil context. But at the same time, they do get to really delay that justice, which as a plaintiff's attorney, I don't like.
Then your rights become tangled.
They are tangled. And here we are. Look at it.
Here we are.
We've got like a little
Tangled rights.
sign.
Did you put in the campaign finance thing? No, I didn't put it in.
What?
The New York City mayor.
Oh, Mr. Adams.
Yeah. You want to talk about him?
Oh, I'd love to.
I thought you put that in. Austin.
No, it was me.
Oh.
He has been charged with bribery and campaign finance offenses. And the U.S. Attorney, Damian Williams, the guy who announced this.
This is federal.
Yes. U.S. Attorney is appointed for their particular area.
Yes.
Right? So I believe it's Northern and Southern District of New York.
Okay.
I interned when I was up there for Eastern. Shit. I interned in 2 offices. I interned in Oklahoma and in New York.
New York's a big state. We only have one federal district here in the state of Nevada. It is just the District of Nevada. That is it. But within some other states, California, you can get a ton of different district courts federally. We're
Southern
talking about
and Northern.
federal courts.
So it's Southern and Northern.
There's only 2 in New York?
Well, at least Southern and New York. Well, there's
okay.
Eastern as well. Whoops. Southern, Eastern, Northern, whatever. Anyway, he's a U.S. attorney in his region. He has gone after other people as well recently. My understanding. Who else did he?
I don't know. You tell me.
No, I'm serious. I can't remember. It's somebody else.
Was it Diddy?
Yes, that's what it was.
Are you're legitimately asking?
Yeah, no.
Your sarcasm and you're like.
No, I really don't
asking.
remember. I knew he went after somebody else.
Could you tell?
Okay, so he also indicted Diddy.
Sean Puffy Combs.
Yeah.
P. Diddy.
For having 1,000 bottles.
That's not what he was arrested for. But
oh, the memes say 1,000 bottles of lubricant.
And
his attorney is like, well, Costco had a sale or something like this.
That's what the police reports kind of came out with a lot of oil.
Okay. Were they like playing Twister or something? Like
slip and slide.
Shoo. Anyway, so I'm going to read a quote from the U.S. Attorney's website. As alleged, Mayor Adams abused his position in the city's highest elected official, and therefore that Brooklyn Borough President to take no bribes and solicit illegal campaign contributions. He took improper and illegal benefits from foreign nationals, including doing something allowing a skyscraper to open without a fire inspection. So basically, it sounds like what he got was a bunch of special interest groups, people, individuals, companies giving him money, or if they don't directly give him money, they were giving him vacations and stuff. And then he was doing things for them. Turns out that's bad. They look down upon that if it's true.
That's not good?
No.
Okay.
He's got 1 count of conspiracy to receive campaign contributions from foreign nationals and commit wire fraud and bribery. Maximum sentence 5 years in prison. 1 count of wire fraud, maximum sentence 20 years in prison, and 2 counts of soliciting campaign contributions from foreign nationals. Yeah, those are not good.
Those are not good. They're accusations.
They are
They have to be
accusations,
proved.
which he did deny
in court.
I saw like a press release or something where he unequivocally said that didn't happen.
We have something going on in Nevada, too, that's kind of similar. Have you heard about this Michelle Fiore trial that's going on right now as we speak?
No.
It's here in federal court. An attorney we know, Michael Sanft, is the defense attorney. She was accused of accepting money and converting it to personal use. So using campaign contributions and converting them to pay rent, pay for child's college.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that.
That's the accusations. The prosecution rested just a few days ago, and so defense witnesses are up now. Governor Lombardo was one of the witnesses in the case. Prosecution called him as a witness. That doesn't mean that he's for them.
No, I'm just saying which side was he a witness on?
Yeah, okay. Who called him? Which he could have potentially been a defense witness, and he could testify. Let's talk about scope a little bit, I guess. When prosecution, whoever calls the witness gets to determine the scope of that testimony. Whatever they ask, whoever cross-examines that witness has to stay within that scope. Okay, so they have to stay within that realm of things that was asked about. But if the defense were to call that witness and have him come, they could then start their own scope and ask him additional questions. But sometimes attorneys understand that there's witness difficulty in coming back, and so they'll kind of waive scope and just say, let's get all his testimony out right now.
Sure.
Sometimes there's strategic things with that where you want to keep the scope limited and then call that person back later.
Right. Because you want it to sit in a certain way.
Yes.
Right? I want you as the jury to hear this information in the way that I want you to hear it, so you understand it and you'll see my version of events more clearly than if we just mash all the testimony together.
So timing of these things is interesting. As far as I know, he only came the one time. So whether he's a prosecution witness or a defense witness, the attorneys can talk to these witnesses themselves. You know, It doesn't have to be in front of the judge. We talked about talking with the judge, with the other party there. As far as independent witnesses go, they can talk to them privately, but then they can be asked about those conversations in certain contexts in front of the jury even.
Sure.
You know, were you told to say this? You know,
yeah, you always
did the
can bring up
prosecutor?
bias.
Yeah. So you can flush out bias in that in certain instances. So that's the reason I kind of, when you ask whose witness is he, I don't know. I didn't listen to the testimony.
Right.
My understanding is that his testimony did not help Michelle Fiore. And a lot of the reporting is saying, oh, man, she does look guilty. She's kind of a tough figurehead here in Nevada.
Fiore, not Fieri.
Fiore, Fiore. Yeah. She's been a Trump supporter, where Nevada, from my youth, was more red, more of a Republican state. It had switched purple in the last few years, but has now gone pretty blue, in my opinion.
I think it also is blue.
So I think we've gone pretty blue now. So Michelle Fiore, being a kind of MAGA, Trump supporter, has kind of alienated a lot of the state.
Everybody.
She lost a pretty close race in 2022.
Nye County?
No, she ran for the state treasurer, and just lost by 1.7%. She got 46% of the vote. There's still a stronghold of Republicans, and Republicans seem to vote better than Democrats. They get out to vote more and better. So that was a non-presidential year election. In presidential elections years, we see a lot more higher voting numbers.
Sure.
So Republicans usually have a better chance on those off years. But she did lose that campaign, and she is not an attorney and acts as a Nye County a judge right now.
Well, not right now.
So
she was suspended.
She was suspended, yeah. But she's an interesting figure, I guess, in this state. But she was a Nye County Justice of the Peace.
Sure.
and had never been an attorney, which is just, to me, as an attorney, I have personal problems with that. I don't like that at all. I think you should be studied in the law.
I don't think it's that weird, but that's also because magistrate judge where
There are some small places where I think it makes sense. I don't think Nye County's one of those. And she moved out there just to be a justice of the peace.
what she likes justice.
Yeah. Okay. So her trial's going on for that exact same thing. That'll
Right,
that'll
same as
come
Adam's.
down pretty soon.
Sure.
Well, I guess slightly different. Converting that money to her personal use.
Right. Well, I mean, it's the same kind of deal. It's just how she converted it, right?
Yes.
Because like what they're saying with Adams is that they took these monies and they used them through straw men. And what straw men or nominee donations are is I give you money, as they were alleging somebody from the Turkish government was one of the people. So that's the foreign national. So I give you, Shane Cox, some money as a Turkish ambassador of whatever. And then you donate it to Adams, where Adams knows he's getting the donation from me. It's not you. You certify that it's your money. It's really not your money. And that's how a lot of the money came through. And just like with the Fiore,
I guess
case you're
Fiore's
talking
was
about.
for donors to a charity for police officers. So it wasn't directly her campaign, but I guess maybe somewhat related. So she got tens of thousands of dollars to erect a statue, and some of that money went to her personal expenses, including her daughter's wedding. Oh, okay.
Nice.
You know, weddings are expensive. So
they are.
they can be, I guess.
Yeah. So with Adams' thing, it seems that the weird deal here, that this is the part that I don't really understand. It's making it seem like it goes back to 2014 when he was elected as the Brooklyn Borough president, and not just with his 2021 mayoral campaign,
Okay.
but that there's been issues for a while. And
We don't get into federal court much. I don't know the statutes of limitations on
with
those
financial
crimes there.
crimes, I want to say it's like a decade.
Wow, long time.
And I only know that because I was looking at some wire fraud stuff recently, and we were talking about
Yeah.
having to go defend old boy in
Yeah, I remember.
California.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I looked up some of the SOLs on that, statutes of limitations, meaning when the government can continue to bring charges, and a lot of the financial crimes are a decade. But, you know, the feds, they have special privileges.
They have more of a budget too than some of these state governments. So
I don't know, man. Part of me, you know, that doesn't trust anything, thinks that it's like they're so self-important that they should have extra time, you know, because you can't cheat the federal government.
and that is a definition of by Congress, right?
Yeah, no,
So
sure.
They determine the statutes of limitations.
You think their constituents would like that? You
I
that
think
they
it
voted?
depends. I think again it goes that person bad, that person good.
Sure.
Oh, if you don't already like Michelle Fiore, you're thinking whatever the statute of limitations can't be long enough, you know.
Right.
against
Take it
her.
away. No statute of limitations.
You should have to answer for your crime. Doesn't matter how long it's been.
Right.
So if she had ripped off me or you, and I had donated $10,000, you know, for this to be built, and she said, "Oh yeah, it's going to be 20 years till we build it," and she keeps lying and saying, you know, it's in the works. It's in the works. Oh, we've had problems, and so how long should the statute of limitation be? If I donated $10,000 for a fallen officer, you know, for a statute to be built, how long should that statute of limitations be? It's all a balancing. It's all a balancing. I don't determine that.
Yeah.
But hey, we should run for Congress so we can determine that, and that should be single issue vote, statute of limitations, and wire fraud actions.
Yes. We will change it.
That'll get the people going. They'll vote Shane Cox. Woo, yeah.
Anyway. So the big thing that I'm noticing here as I'm looking at Adam's stuff, and I know it's kind of switching back and forth here, but the false certifications of the people, right, say that he got in his 2021 mayoral campaign received more than $10 million in public funds that he shouldn't have gotten.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
That seems to me to be a bigger problem. Like,
That's way more than Fiore
yeah.
got, right? And
I mean,
converted,
let's see,
allegedly.
So all these issues with foreign nationals and stuff, yeah, sure, that's a problem, especially considering who he is. Like if he was the mayor of Sedan, Kansas, oh well, what are you gonna do? They're gonna put an extra few bricks in the yellow brick road, which we do have. The world's longest yellow brick road. Shout out. What really can you change? But the mayor of New York,
Yeah.
that's like the capital of business.
Yeah, that's a big city.
There's a lot of stuff that they could do.
He's well known before this, and there's a certain subset of people, maybe those Trump supporters, that are going to be ecstatic about Adams potentially being put away, and they're going to think he's guilty already.
Yeah,
without hearing
New
any
York
facts.
has had a lot of issues in the last couple years, though.
Yes,
with respect to their, politicians allegedly doing things that are below board.
It's a big city with a lot of politics too.
Well, but it pretty much ties up the politics for the whole state, like what happened with Cuomo and all that.
Yeah,
but who knows? Whomst among us?
Let's get past this
crazy story.
Let's get past this
worth following up on to see what happens, especially the controversy, right? Because he's categorically denying everything.
Yeah.
And in a public statement.
He has
for sure. But I think it makes for an interesting discovery period. It'll be fun to find out, maybe he's right.
These things will pop up. More evidence will come out,
or,
little by little.
Maybe he's very wrong.
So we had a new Ninth Circuit court decision, and
love that Ninth Circuit. Come on.
Nevada is within the Ninth Circuit. The circuit courts, again, are the appellate courts just above the district courts, federal district courts we were talking about, and just below the Supreme Court. So right in the middle. And the Ninth Circuit has the biggest population of any circuit court, includes
Would you
California.
Say that there's some deference to them?
No, I don't know. It is maybe the second most influential court, lower than the U.S. Supreme Court, because it does cover has the most judges in the Ninth Circuit, and makes decisions that cover the most amount of people other than the U.S. Supreme Court.
Sure.
So this was out of Arizona, which is also part of our Ninth Circuit, with Nevada and California, some other West states. So in Maricopa County, which is the biggest county in Arizona, covers Phoenix, huge Phoenix area. Maybe you've seen when a person gets arrested, a photo is taken of them and put on websites. That is a normal occurrence.
I forgot we were going to talk about this.
In a lot of states. In a lot of states. So in Maricopa County, a man had his photo taken when he was arrested.
Yep.
But then he was sat in holding, never got charged with anything. Statute of limitations ran. Kind of the case went away. But the county had these pictures online of everyone who they had arrested. So he decided to sue the county and saying, hey, my rights are being violated by putting me up as a potential criminal, and I'm not even charged with any crime. So what you're trying to do to me is you're trying to drag my good name and my beautiful face in the mud, and I did nothing. Now potential employers could see that on background checks.
Yep.
They can see, me looking like an idiot. And every single picture you see of 99% of mugshots look ridiculous.
Unless it's mugshotties.
Okay.
Then mostly they don't look that ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Do you know what that is?
This challenge went up to the district court level and has recently gone up to the circuit court, the Ninth Circuit, a panel of just 3 judges.
Oh, 3-judge panel?
3-judge panel. It always starts that way.
I know.
Or normally starts that way.
Bonk,
We kind of talked about this with, some gun stuff before. So there was a panel of 3 judges that decided all together, same thing, that the state, city, whoever does not have a real kind of legitimate purpose in posting these. Because the state tried to argue, hey, we're trying to protect the public, inform the public of potential charges. And so the court came back and said, you're just talking about potential charges. You're not even talking about convictions. These people aren't convicted. There's no real evidence and a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt that these people did what you're alleging that they did.
Sure.
And in fact, this person sat in an instance where they weren't even charged with anything. They were arrested. We know that there are wrongful arrests all the time. People that should not be detained, people that should not be arrested and spent time in jail.
Correct.
But it happens. They have their picture that's put out in the public for maybe doing nothing wrong. And for them to rise to the level of, having a civil action against the state is kind of a more difficult process.
But then also, the thing that I've found interesting is in those places where that happens, oftentimes, so like Montgomery County, where I prosecuted at, the local newspaper would get a hold of it.
Yes.
As soon as the sheriff's office posts it, the newspaper copies it.
It becomes public.
And then you'll have somebody who's running a Facebook page or whatever.
Yep.
And in a small town or anywhere for that matter, suddenly, before you know it, all 3,300 people in your county, oh, Justin got a DUI last night. Good job, idiot.
And that's because we have general access. The Freedom of Information Act allows us to get this information. So it's presumed that this is public information now, and it becomes public because it's posted on a government website.
Sure.
So anyone can go get it. Anyone can then go put it anywhere they want online with no penalty because you have a First Amendment right to put things out, in the public realm. So what ended up happening is they said, okay, these actually do violate due process rights. You are not allowed to post pictures of people who are in this position. So as we've discussed many times, when court, Supreme Court, Circuit Court, they decide on a specific set of facts. So now states, counties are kind of confused. They say, okay, well, we can't do this specific thing. We can't be posting pictures of people who aren't charged. Can we post pictures when they are charged? The answer is not clear right now. We're kind of in a mist here. And the Ninth Circuit only applies to the states that are within the Ninth Circuit. So this applies to the state of Nevada. This applies to Arizona and California right now. So,
but it could be persuasive on another place.
It could be persuasive on another place, but whether the counties are, realizing that they should make this change or actually making this change, there's small counties that sometimes, might not be looking at Ninth Circuit decisions
also
all the time.
When I was in Montgomery County, I had a judge tell me, well, that might be the law in the Supreme Court of the United States of America, but this is Montgomery County, Kansas. And that is a direct quote.
So I sent Austin a Facebook post. We're going to put it up here. Lyon County in Nevada, Lyon. Every Monday they would post all of their pictures for their new detainees.
Great.
So they made a post just recently now. Okay, because of this Ninth Circuit decision, our Monday posts will look like this. It'll just have faceless pictures, and it'll just have information and no names of how many arrests there are.
Okay,
so
that's fine.
It'll just say, we're holding these people.
Why are they pissed? Oh, because they're not getting their cheese may?
They're like, we need to see child predators.
That's the defense. They're not convicted child predators yet, though. So
and they're not even technically at that point formally accused.
They're not. So this is even pre-complaint, and it's the prosecutor's discretion onto whether to file a complaint.
In Lyon County, how many people are in Lyon County? Hold on.
They probably know.
Let me look this up.
All you have to do is have probable cause,
What's
to
probable
make
cause?
charges.
Let's put it into percentage. Shane, what does that mean for the people that need to know?
I don't know. What do you think? 33%?
More likely than not.
Is it more likely than not? What is it practically versus what it should be? I know it should be over 50%. But
practically, it's probably right, 33 to 40%.
Right. So it's supposed to be more likely than not, but I think practically it's much less.
61,000 people in Lyon County.
That's a pretty big county.
Yeah, huge.
What is that? Elko? Is Elko in there?
I don't know.
It's a smaller county, 61,000 people, not a crazy amount. But
who's coming for you out there, guys? Right? You're fine. You're gonna be okay without getting to talk crap on people that got DUIs or a battery over the weekend because they got too drunk.
So
that's what it really comes down to, I think, is because everybody's got to be in everybody else's business. We all have to talk crap on each other
and make rash judgments on people as being bad.
Sure.
So,
however, when it's an attorney that you know and he has been convicted and he is on a list, it is okay to have an opinion about him.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
That's a completely different set of circumstances than someone who's been arrested and not even charged, and then you're making an opinion.
Yes.
Is all I'm saying.
And that is
the difference. You know who you are.
That is the difference also in this kind of discussion here is this is all even before filing a complaint
Sure.
against the person, which does
So-
require a probable cause affidavit of some sort or some kind of probable
But
cause.
it's a secondary check, right? Because the police get to make their determination. They have officer discretion, but then the
which
prosecutor
they're
has to,
not as learned in the law as.
and the Supreme Court has basically articulated, and I'm going to screw the standard up here, that the reason the police get checked by a judge, a neutral and detached magistrate, especially in the context of a search warrant or something, is because the police, they're face down in this investigation. Of course they want to try to find the guy, right? I think the analogy they make is a hunting dog. Not to say that police are dogs, it's not what it's saying, but I believe that the analogy was like, look, their job is to do this, and so you need someone to look at it from a different perspective to see whether or not it does in fact rise to probable cause.
Everything a hammer sees is a nail. Right?
Correct.
So
Yes. So we're going to send another picture, and this is of somebody I know. And Austin's going to put it on there. Kark Lamoth, a.k.a. Mark Lamoth.
one of our big listeners.
He's a huge listener, always sending us things, and he's
in terms of size, he's a huge man.
No, he's like 5'6". He's a dwarf. Or elf. I can't remember which I call him. Anyway, so I'm going to read his text, and Austin will put his picture up. Got into an argument, and this is a direct quote, got into an argument with a fat off-duty cop over being too loud in a Waffle House at 3 a.m. Was told I had to leave. Argument continued because no damage was done to property and nobody from the establishment had asked us to leave, which are the requirements for trespass in Georgia. Asked for a supervisor and argued with him. Cops tried to instruct my friend and I to get in the car and leave, which sounded to us like a good little entrapment scheme because we were hammered. Ended up being arrested and taken to Muskogee County Jail and charged with criminal trespassing, but it has hit a dead docket. I think my lawyer doesn't want to cause a stir because he's a local guy. I'm on the fence about seeing if an out-of-town lawyer will be more aggressive. So,
What did you respond with?
LOL is what I responded with. But the funny thing is that like he called me when he was getting out of jail because...
He's in this specific circumstance we're talking about in this case, too.
But I think he was flying out here like the next day to hang out with me. And if he would have missed that flight, it would have been a big deal. So he gets out of jail at like 4 o'clock in the morning. But his mugshots, dude, this is the second one he's had there. The first one, he, ended up taking a plea on something. DUI, whatever.
Reckless driving.
But it got dropped down to a reckless because there was something wrong with the investigation. But anyway, his mugshots, they're so funny. In fact, let's post the second one. I'm gonna tell him to send me the second one. He's got such a poo-poo face. Which I guess when you've just been arrested like that at 3 a.m. when hammered.
Now, has he been convicted of anything?
No.
The first one.
The first one.
The reckless.
But
But this one that you said,
no.
It's
It's in a dead docket, so it's kind of just sitting somewhere.
It's going to sit there until the statute of limitations is passed and they'll dismiss it.
Yeah.
so Lyon County cannot post it.
They already did.
Lyon
This came from a
County,
while ago.
Yeah. I mean, he could bring up this same exact suit there and, say, hey, look at Ninth Circuit. Look what they said.
And so
I have the same rights. Don't be posting this. Because this is about the U.S. Constitution. This
Correct.
isn't. And the U.S. Constitution always creates a floor of what states should do.
right, states can create higher, sets of rights or whatever, but they can't go lower. And the watermark on the picture that he sent me says the Georgia Gazette. So it went from
newspaper.
Muskogee County to the newspaper.
As they do. I mean, they just get this stuff.
That's his other.
Wow, he looks like he could be charged for murder.
Yeah, he's very poo-poo face in this picture.
Thank you, Mark, a.k.a. Kark.
Kark, you tool.
it's-
Stop getting arrested.
Mark with a C, like my brother.
And that's why I call him Kark. Fun fact.
Funny.
When we first met each other, the very first time in Syracuse when I was playing rugby, we almost got into a fight within 5 minutes of meeting each other.
Yeah, I've heard this.
We're a good story. We're good
I
buddies.
thought you knew him after 6 seconds.
I know. 6 seconds to tell me that he needed to cut his stupid haircut because he was unsat and he's an officer in the infantry and, he looked like crap.
Be better.
Be better, Mark. All right.
How much time?
We got like 2 minutes. 1 minute.
So let's get to our listener question. I had our good guest, our awesome guest before, Paul Kragenbrink, Paul
Okay.
Kra.
Yeah.
He texted me one day and said, man, if somebody breaks into my house, can I shoot him?
Depends on what state you're in.
Here in Nevada. He told me the story that he heard a loud crashing of glass breaking, and so he pulled out his handgun that he legally owns.
Sure.
and kind of did a sweep of his house, ready to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And then he went into his son's room and realized that something had fallen off of a ledge in his son's room, and it was a picture frame that had broken.
And he did not shoot his son.
Did not shoot his son. No,
Good.
We'd have
Good.
a much
Good.
different conversation.
Good.
There. And then there was a news article that came out just this last week that was kind of the same thing. A Las Vegas homeowner had shot an intruder and killed the intruder, and the police looked like they weren't going to charge him with anything, but we don't know. The name wasn't revealed in this instance, so we don't know specifically. And so the question came up, Justin, I know you face this. Here in Nevada, we'll say just Nevada, can I shoot an intruder into my home?
Generally speaking, yes.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
What's the standard? What's the test you got to do?
We have the castle doctrine.
Okay.
Right, so
What's that mean?
It means that your home is your castle and you're allowed to defend it.
Okay.
Right? So you're going to get into like somewhat of a sticky situation if they haven't breached the perimeter. I mean, there's obviously different rules with curtilage and stuff, curtilage meaning the area around the house. But it seems to me, in my recollection of things, and this is again going off cuff here, if they are coming into your house and they have stepped foot inside the threshold or gone through a window, at that point, you are allowed to use lethal force.
You want me to tell you the test?
Sure.
It is an intruder enters your occupied home or vehicle,
Right. I knew that it extends to the vehicle. Yeah.
and you reasonably believe the intruder intends to commit violence.
Which somebody intruding into your house at night or in the day, the immediate reasonable belief would be that they intend to commit violence.
And there's a question of a person you don't know versus you knowing who the person is could be a fact.
Sure.
All facts matter.
Yeah. Sliding scale.
So there was one recently in another state where a lady shot through her door at her neighbor, killed her neighbor through the door. That's going to be a trial. Maybe we'll talk about, in the near future. But in this case, the presumption is the person has entered into your home, which is one of the factors here, and reasonably believe the intruder intends to commit violence. What does that mean? It means what a jury ultimately would decide.
Or if the police,
what that means for you.
like if they're booting your door down and it's 2 a.m, it's a safe assumption that they're going to try and hurt you if they find you.
Yes. If somebody's, says, I have a gun.
Yeah, I'm usually
you
not.
see something that looks like a knife, it's what's in your mind. So if they
Reasonable.
have something silver, that they're holding in their hand,
It's reasonable at the time.
if they lunge at you,
I've
anything
never
like that.
kicked anyone's door down to give them a cotton candy delivery. So I think it's pretty fair to assume.
The standard's pretty low.
standard is
You're not always. I'm just saying it's low as
compared to other things.
yes,
Sure.
yes. Just in an outside encounter,
Right.
the standard is higher. You have to reasonably believe that you are going to have physical harm,
Body harm or
imminent.
death. Yeah.
So somebody pointing a gun at you inside your home, someone breaks in, not quite the same. And they have to be breaking it. It can't be an invitee into your home.
Or in your house. Like, let's say they broke the window and then you come out in the kitchen and there they are.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it gets to that whole thing. It's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to have to potentially have yourself or your loved one get hurt? Or do you want to have to explain to somebody later why you made the decision that you made after somebody else made a decision that they
Yes.
should not have made?
Yes. So
That's a personal decision. Obviously, there are legal ramifications with all those, and I'm not going to get into my personal feelings, but I think we all know what they are.
there's so many shades of gray within this,
Yeah.
but most times you would be justified, and that would be what we call a justified homicide.
Correct. It's still a homicide
And is not criminal, is
because of the justification.
likely not a civil claim, but that doesn't prevent one from being filed against you either.
Correct.
But it was in the news. Friend of the podcast had a recent occurrence. So that was a question from not one of our usual listeners. Thank you, Paul, for providing us with a new question, something we can shed some light on.
Sure.
Thank you for listening. Go UNLV Rebels.
Go Cuse.
Kill those orange men
Go
or
Cuse.
Minutemen or whatever they are.
Orangeman.
Pieces of orange.
Otto the Orange, dude. He comes around. I've got pictures with Otto the Orange.
Yeah, whatever that
He's
is.
a big orange.
Carrier Dome. Go Rebels.
No.
Yes.
Go Cuse. You guys are going to love what happens to Shane.
Go Rebels. Peace.
Welcome from my home office.
Got these hats a little late. Bradenton Marauders, which is like a pirate, just outside of Florida, where we were talking about that black swan killer. This is the closest minor league baseball team, just south of Tampa. And their Hispanic Heritage Night, or Copa de la Diversión, their Fun Cup, they change into the Barba Negras, or the Blackbeards. So a very cool lime-colored themed hat. Peace out.